The horse beneath you smells it before you do. A shift in the wind, something metallic and wrong, and the animal's ears flatten without a command. You haven't seen the enemy yet. You don't need to. The ground itself is telling you something. A low tremor building from the north like distant thunder that refuses to arrive. Around you, 200,000 men are already in motion, and not one of them has spoken above a whisper. This is the steppe in the year of the dog, 1220, by a calendar that means nothing to the men riding across it. The Mongol war machine has been moving for 3 weeks without stopping, eating in the saddle, sleeping in rotations, covering ground at a pace no sedentary army in the world can match or understand. Their enemies build walls. Their enemies train for siege. Their enemies prepare for the kind of war they know. That is the first way you would die here. You are not Mongol. That is the beginning of the problem. The men around you have been on horseback since before they could walk, not as a figure of speech, but as a literal fact of childhood. Boys were tied to horses at age 3 to keep them from falling. They learned to grip with their knees before they learned to run. Their bodies have adapted over a lifetime to the rhythm of the animal beneath them, and that rhythm is not something you can borrow. Within the first hour of movement, your inner thighs would begin to fail. By hour 3, you would be fighting the horse instead of riding it. The Mongol archer fires from full gallop, not approximately, not desperately, with measured, considered precision, releasing the arrow at the exact moment all 4 of the horse's hooves are off the ground, in that suspended fraction of a second when the platform beneath him goes still. This technique, called the Parthian shot in older accounts, allows him to fire backward while retreating at full speed, presenting no target while delivering one. The bow itself requires a draw weight of over 160 pounds. Most men alive in 12 and 20 cannot pull it once. These men pull it 40 times in a single engagement. Your weapons are wrong for this fight. If you carry a sword, you've brought a close-range tool to a long-range war. The Mongols will not close with you if they can help it. They will circle. They will thin your formation from a distance. They will feign retreat, and this is the part that has destroyed armies before yours. They will pretend to break and run, and when your formation chases the gap, the trap closes from 3 sides simultaneously. The feigned retreat is not improvised. It is drilled, practiced across empty steppe until it happens without thought, without signal, without hesitation. At Khwarezm that same year, the empire that controlled much of Central Asia, cities, trade routes, one of the wealthiest corners of the medieval world, collapsed in less than 2 years. Not because it lacked soldiers. The Khwarezm Shah commanded somewhere between 300,000 and 400,000 men. What he lacked was a center. The Mongols bypassed the fortified cities initially, severed communication lines, destroyed supply routes, and turned each garrison into an isolated pocket of men who had no idea what was happening 50 miles away. An army without information is not an army. It is a collection of confused men in armor. You are wearing too much. A heavy coat of mail, a helmet, a shield, boots that are not made for running. In the cold of the Mongolian plateau, and this morning it is cold, a sharp Central Asian cold that has nothing to do with winter and everything to do with altitude, that weight costs you heat faster than the air does. Mongol soldiers wear layered silk beneath their armor, silk specifically, because an arrowhead that penetrates does not fully pierce silk. The fabric wraps around the point and allows the shaft to be extracted cleanly without tearing flesh further. That detail is not folk wisdom. It is battlefield medicine evolved over generations. Now consider what they carry. Each Mongol soldier rides with multiple horses, between 3 and 5 per man on campaign, rotating mounts constantly, so no single animal exhausts itself. The supply chain does not exist the way yours does. They eat dried meat, millet, and when necessary, they open a vein in the horse's neck and drink a measure of blood before sealing it again. The animal does not die. The man does not stop moving. This self-sufficiency is not metaphorical frontier toughness. It is a calculated logistical system that eliminates the supply train that every other army in the world depends on, and that every besieging force uses as a target. The command structure around you functions differently than anything you've trained for. There is no single point of failure in a Mongol formation because authority is distributed across a decimal system. Units of 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, each with a commander who operates with genuine autonomy within the larger plan. The generals at the top communicate by signal. Flags during the day, torches and drums at night. But once an engagement begins, the units do not wait for orders. They already know the plan. They've rehearsed it across open country. What looks like chaos from the outside is a coordinated system executing simultaneously from multiple directions, and you are standing in the middle of it. The psychological component is not an accident. The Mongols cultivate their reputation as deliberately as they cultivate their horses. Cities that surrendered immediately were spared and incorporated. Cities that resisted were made into object lessons, systematically, completely, without exception, and those lessons were allowed to travel ahead of the army. By the time the vanguard reached the walls of Samarkand in 1220, the city's defenders had already heard what happened at Otrar, what happened at Bukhara. The terror moved faster than the cavalry, and terror, it turns out, is a siege weapon. You have been watching the horizon for 3 minutes now. The ground tremor has become sound. The sound has become shape, a line of riders moving at a pace that doesn't look fast from a distance and is, in fact, covering ground at something close to 15 miles per hour in a sustained charge. The arrows will reach you before you see their faces clearly. In the sky above the advancing formation, the shafts are already airborne, thousands of them, loosed from distance in a high arc, designed to fall at a steep angle that defeats the shield you're raising. Mongol commanders called this technique the rain. The armies on the other end of it described it the same way. The last thing you notice, before the noise becomes total and the formation around you begins to fracture, is that no one on the other side is yelling. No war cry, no signal, no bravado, just the sound of hooves and bowstrings doing precisely what they were built to do, and the understanding, arriving slightly too late, that you were never fighting men. You were fighting a system. And the system was already finished before you arrived.